Hello, 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 and welcome to today's episode of Her Version. We are talking sobriety today on Sober Society. This podcast is dedicated to sharing stories of struggle to triumph, a platform that allows individuals to tell their truth in order to inspire and uplift others. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. If you are new to this podcast, make sure you follow, like, subscribe, and share. Let's jump right in. Hello, and thank you for joining us. This platform is built on storytelling and the understanding that many times our greatest learning experiences come from listening to other people's stories. Today, I am speaking with an amazing woman named Melissa. Melissa is here today to talk about her run-in with drugs and the joy she now lives sober. She is the author of the blog Growing Up Sober and now works at one of the leading treatment centers in Philadelphia. She might need to correct me on that.
No, you're right. And we have a national presence as well.
Awesome. She is dedicated to giving back and uses her story to inspire and encourage other women that no matter how low you go, you can always get back up. Welcome, Melissa.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me, Sabrina. I'm so honored to be here today. I'm sorry in advance if my dog starts to bark in the background. I am doing this from home, and I'm pretty sure she just went a little crazy before. So that is Miss Lola, and she's my little girl, but she's running around the house somewhere. I'm sure she'll poke her head in at some point today.
I love that. We would love to see her. So national presence, where is, first of all, what treatment center? And then
So I am the director of business development for the state of Pennsylvania for Banyan Treatment Center. We have 14 locations nationally in multiple states. We started in Florida quite a few years ago, and we expanded from there. So we're located in Florida, Delaware, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Texas, California, and Illinois.
Wow, you guys are really spread nicely.
Yeah, we have a nice presence across the country. I mean, the more locations we have, the more people we can help. So I'm all for it. 100%. Every time I turn around, we're acquiring another center. So I'm like, okay, this is great.
Yes, I love that. I love that. That's so awesome. Well, listen, I so appreciate you being here. I so appreciate you taking a little bit of time out of your day. Can't even imagine with all of the new stuff you have going on in your life right now. The goodness that has come into your life. I'm so excited to share it with everybody. So thank you again for taking some time. I would love to kind of take a few steps back and give you the floor per se to kind of just talk about what life looked like when you were younger. What did life look like before you actually got into drugs?
Okay, absolutely. So I grew up in Monmouth County, New Jersey, in a really small but large town called Lincroft. I was raised by a single mom. She's absolutely awesome. I'm sure she's watching right now. If she is, hey, Ma. I have a younger brother and a younger sister. I am the oldest of three. And I have a really loving, super supportive family. When I was growing up, it was always family events, family parties. Holidays were always really big, birthdays. We are just a really fun-loving Irish group of people. And I mean, I had a really fantastic upbringing. I went to Catholic school right up the street from my house. I had really great girlfriends. We're still super close.
Nice.
Yeah, and it was just a pretty run-of-the-mill childhood. My mom is a single mom. My father passed away when I was 5 years old. And she has since been had boyfriends or married again, and always really fantastic guys. Things just you know how it is when you're dating, you have kids, there's a lot that comes into the picture. So things happened, but I always had a really good role model in my mom. I had a really good role model in my grandfather as a really strong father figure. My uncle was always really prevalent in my childhood, super close with him. My family's extremely tight knit. My mom and I talk 3 times a day. I talk to my grandma.
Wow.
I talk to my grandma almost every day, my uncle almost every day. I mean, it's probably borderline weird how close we all are. and my sister and I are like best friends. My brother and I have a really great relationship. I mean, God has always been really good to me in the family department.
That's awesome.
Obviously the passing of my father was like extremely sad and traumatic. I was really young. I didn't really quite understand what was going on. And as I got older, like the not understanding kind of turned into anger because I didn't know what to do with it. And like I sooner learned in like one of a million rehabs that anger is a secondary emotion. With that being said, I didn't know how to handle my emotions and they all kind of just turned into anger. So I was a little bit of an angry kid, argumentative, feisty, but I was always really involved in like school sports and like I had really good extracurricular activities in my life to kind of have an outlet. But eventually I made a few too many wrong decisions that ended up with me hooked on opiates.
Yeah. So how did how did you wind up colliding into drugs? How did it happen?
It's actually, I always say, like, when I'm talking in a meeting, like, I slipped and fell on a needle when I was 17. I think it's funny. Most people are probably like, she's really sick. Um, but I mean, essentially, I went to Catholic school. Like I said, I got into the Catholic high school that all my girlfriends were going to. But when I was in like 6th or 7th grade, I started drinking. And I was really young. I got sober really young. I started drinking really young. I obviously don't have a high pain threshold, or I would probably still be out there drinking and using. But I reached my bottom like in a very short, like 8 years, and it felt like the longest 8 years of my life. But like looking back, it flew by. So with that being said, I kind of got mixed up with like the wrong group of people, not to sound so like cliche. I obviously made my own decisions. I wanted to be bad. I don't know how else to explain it. Like I wanted to get that negative attention, not because I wasn't getting enough positive, just because the negative seemed more rewarding to me. Like, let's see how upset I can make everybody. Let's see what I can do to the people closest to me, how far I can push everybody, and if they'll still love me. So I mean, I started drinking when I was in like 6th, 7th grade. The drinking led to smoking weed. I smoked weed and just smoked weed for a long time, and I thought it like wasn't problematic. Looking back, like I would steal like $20 out of my mom's wallet. And like somebody who's like smoking weed recreationally isn't stealing from their single mom. My mom's a teacher. Like we weren't rolling in money when I was growing up.
Yeah.
And that's not like normal behavior. I would steal 20s. And then from there, I eventually started like writing myself checks. I would steal from stores, and I was still like 8th grade, 9th grade, just smoking weed. And then I eventually got sent to a state-run program because I failed a drug test in school. I met a boy. That boy was really hooked on benzodiazepines, and everybody called him like a certain name. They called him like Sticks or something. And I was like, well, what does that mean? And I found out really quick, I started doing Xanax. I started doing Klonopin. I started doing any type of benzo I could get my hands on. And it got really ugly really fast.
Dane has a question.
Yes, my family always sat for dinner every night, literally every single night. And like still to this day, it's so funny because like when my fiance, he travels a lot for work and I travel a lot for work. But when he's away, I will like FaceTime my mom just to eat dinner with her and my family. It's like the funniest thing. But yeah, no, we always sat down and had dinner together every night. It's like a really big tradition, I guess, in my family.
That's awesome.
So I started using benzos, and the benzos turned into opiates. And from there, I was 17 years old shooting heroin.
Wow.
I dropped out of high school when I was 16. It was like a really big thing. My family was like devastated. I immediately got my GED. I got a 98% on the GED test, which like I guess like it's kind of like being like the smartest person in the like whatever
in the world.
Yeah, they sent my mom a letter saying that if I continued with high school, I would have graduated in top 5% of my class.
Wow.
So it was like extremely upsetting for my whole family. My mom immediately was like, if you're not going to go to school, you have to work, and you're going to enroll in college courses after I got my GED. So like I was going to community college when I was like 16 years old. My grandma was dropping me off and like giving me a sandwich and sending me on my way. And because in New Jersey, you don't get your license till you're 17. So it kind of just like spiraled, I stopped going to the community college. I stopped working. I stopped doing all the things I was supposed to do. And I remember like before I dropped out, they tried to send me to an alternative high school where my boyfriend went as well. And like they would pick me up on like the tiny bus in the morning, and I only had to go to school for 4 hours a day, and I would have graduated with a regular high school diploma. I couldn't do it.
Wow.
Do it. I would show up drunk. I would show up high. I would get high during school hours. And they just like didn't know what to do with me. And it's so funny because like looking back, I clearly had like obviously like strong, like severe depression and anxiety, but I also was like really struggling with a substance use disorder. And they were like, oh, oppositional defiance, this, that. And like the school really tried. Like I came from a really fantastic school district, and they tried so hard to help me, to keep me going, to keep me on the right path. Like the principal of the alternative school, actually, I now go back and speak to the same school about sobriety and like what my life
Oh, wow.
is now. But he was so awesome, Mr. Homiak. I'll never forget him. And
Yes.
he was such a great guy. He always tried to go the extra mile for me and like kind of get me in and out of situations without getting in trouble, just to like keep me going so I could graduate. And I could not do it. From there, they tried home instruction. They sent teachers to my house. Like this school really tried to work with me. And these poor teachers would come to my house, and my mom, who is a teacher, would be like, Melissa, the teacher's here. And I'd be like, yeah, they can go after themselves. Like so hard. I was a little devil child.
Wow.
And like looking back, like everybody around me tried so hard to keep me going and keep me on the right path and like the path to success and keep things moving like business as usual. And I wouldn't do it.
Looking back now, what was like the lowest point where you definitively remember like, wow, that was messed up?
So, like I said, I started like obviously using IV drugs when I was 17, and there was a lot of low points. I mean, things really escalated for me. Like I entered my first treatment center just shy of 18. When I like recently after I turned 18, I was incarcerated. I was incarcerated for 30 days, and from there, so I remember being in jail and like, I'm never going to use again. This is horrible. I don't belong here. Like, I grew up in Lincroft. Like, you guys don't know who I am. And like, I remember I was still like so argumentative. These poor girls that were also incarcerated with me would be like, who was serving you on the block? And I'd be like, your uncle. Like, I was horrible. I was horrible. Girls were trying to like fight me. And I had this like really good girl who was also in like the cell with me. And she was like, what you have to do when you get out is go to AA. And I was like, I tried that when I was like 15. My neighbor brought me to a meeting, whatever. I didn't like it. And I'm not going back. She was like, you have to try something because you will pick up again. I was like, no, I'll have 30 days sober when I leave. Like, I'm not going to. So I left. I was released from jail, and like things back then, this was before the Affordable Care Act, I believe. And it was like really hard to get into treatment if you were sober for like a certain period of time. And the judge was like, she either has to do 30 days or be released to a treatment center. And my mom, my poor mom, was like tirelessly trying to get me into a treatment center. And these places were like, your daughter has to use before she goes, because she'll never be able to get in coming out of jail.
Wow.
And I got out of jail that day. I went home to my mom's house, and I remember like I had 30 days sober for the first time since I started drinking or using when I was like in 6th grade. And I got high and I overdosed. I almost died. They found me like on the front yard of a drug dealer's house.
Wow.
My mom, I woke up in the hospital. I had no idea what happened. My mom was there. My aunt was there. A friend of mine was there. Everybody was like, you're going to rehab. And that was like when my real like institution journey started. I was in and out of rehabs for the next 2 years. So I would say for me, the lowest point was probably like the end of my last run. I had acquired 4 months sober at like this really great program in Florida, and I left. I was like, I'm ready to go. And like I moved out and I moved into this halfway house that had like no rules, no nothing. And I started using again. And when I tell you, like it talks about it in the literature of the 12-step program I'm in, like the just complete despair that comes after a relapse. I wanted to die. Like, I truly wanted it to all end. I was like 20 years old. I saw absolutely no way out. I had been in treatment more times than years I'd been alive. And
Wow.
I saw like absolutely no way out. And I just continuously was on this mission of like suicide. Like, how much can I use and not wake up in the morning? And
Wow.
like, by the grace of God, like, I'm still here. I'm about to celebrate my 27th birthday.
Yes.
And like God is really good and God kept me alive because like there was obviously a bigger purpose for me. But in those moments, like it was so dark, I really couldn't see it.
Absolutely. Dane has a question for you.
Where I knew anything of it. No, I thought that was it for me. I never thought there would be like an out for me. I thought it was just gonna be like this is my life until I face like an untimely death. Like this is it over and over again. And like my mom didn't know what to do with me. My grandparents, my brother, my sister. I remember before I was incarcerated, my mom let me in the house for like a day and to bring me to court. And I had just gotten out of detox again. And she was like, come home, take a shower, get dressed, and look presentable before the judge. And obviously I snuck out of the house and got high. And I walked in and my brother, who was like, I don't know, I guess if I was 18, he was like 14, 13. He looked me dead in the face and said, this is the last time I want to see you. If you don't pull this together, I want nothing to do with you ever again. And, you know, obviously I was incarcerated that day and I got out and overdosed, like I said, but it really took like quite a turn from there.
That's awesome. I want to ask, as far as you've already kind of touched on this already, but you know, the lowest point, you know, the turning point, is that kind of like, you know, your story that you just told, is that kind of like when you decided enough was enough?
No, there was years after that, after the moment with my brother. So, I mean, right before I got sober, like I said, was when I was on this like horrible suicide mission in South Florida, and I had like burned every bridge. And one day I just like I picked up the phone and I called my mom and I was like, listen, like if I stay down here another day, I'm gonna die. And like I now know that was like a moment of clarity and like the gift of desperation. But like for some reason, my mom that day, like she really believed me and she bought me a plane ticket and flew me home.
Wow.
And that's not to say that I would have never gotten sober in Florida because like half of my friends got sober in Florida. It's just I was so young and so not ready. And at the time I flew down there and then by the time like I was ready to really get sober, the only people I knew were like people that still wanted to continue to use. Like I knew I needed to change my environment. And like everybody says like, "Oh, geographical change doesn't work, doesn't work, doesn't work." Like I don't think I could have gotten sober where I grew up and I don't think I could have gotten sober in Florida. I think after that point I had like made such wreckage in both of those areas.
Yeah.
It had to be moved to like essentially the middle of nowhere to get sober. And which I kind of was, you know, I got sober. So my mom flew me home and I woke up in New Jersey and I was like, oh my God, what is going on? And my mom woke me up like waving a pork roll, egg, and cheese over my face. And like anybody, if you're from New Jersey, like you'll understand how special that was. Um, so my mom woke me up like waving this pork roll, egg, and cheese over my face. And she's like, we got to figure this out like immediately. And I
Yeah.
was like, okay. And I ate the pork roll, egg, and cheese. My grandma came over and like my family sat down and talked to me. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go to Dunkin' Donuts. Like I'll come right back. And I didn't come back for 10 days. My mom was calling me every day. She was like, please don't make me regret flying you home. Like, please just come home. Let's get you help. Like, every single day, all day. I was like, please, like, leave me alone. And eventually, I crawled back into my mom's house. I was like, I'll go. And yeah, my mom really is awesome. I crawled back into my mom's house. I was like, I'll go. And she left work, came, picked me up, and brought me to detox.
Wow.
On the way to detox, this is just like a very like now funny story. My mom said she's never seen a more disgusting person in her entire life, because she brought me into a 7-Eleven and was like, just grab something, like grab a water bottle, whatever you need. And I was so high. I opened the donut case and I touched every single one. How disgusting. And my mom
Wow.
was like, ew. My mom was like, get in the car, get the hell out of here. We are going. Like, that is it. No more stops. You're on your way. And I walked into the detox center, and my vitals were so low because I was like so high. My vitals were so low, they made me go to the hospital. They couldn't even admit me. The next day I went back to the detox center, and that was August 8th, 2015.
Yes.
And I've been sober ever since.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. My birthday's August 7th.
Oh, wow.
This is Lucy. Do you think being locked up helped, or did it make it worse for you?
I don't think it was either. I was just like an 18-year-old kid thrown in jail for like a really minor offense. I think the judge thought it would save me. It was really scary. Yeah, it was incredibly scary. Like, I don't know. I mean, it was just quite an experience for me being incarcerated. I met a lot of people that like I thought I had it so bad growing up, and like I met these poor women that were also incarcerated with me. And like I just heard some of the saddest stories, and like there was so much untreated mental illness in there. Like looking back, it was crazy. So I don't know that it helped, like, or made it worse or made it better. Like, I will say the girl that I shared the cell with had like a lifelong impact on me. She told me like the only answer for me is gonna be AA.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, it's not. Like, you're wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. Like, you're older and you're still in here. Like, why hasn't AA worked for you? Like, I just thought I had an answer for everything. And, you know, it turns out like AA was the answer for me. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I hope she's well, you know, like I think about it. Like sometimes she pops in my head and I'm like, you know, I really hope she's well.
Yes. Yes. I hope so too.
Mm-hmm.
I hope so too. It'd be nice if one day she realized how much that helped. And that's what this is, and exactly what you're doing right now. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes we just need to hear it from the right person at the right time to kind of make an impact. And although it didn't like happen right then, it stuck with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's cool. That's cool.